So we are slowly but surely working our way into our 2-week Green Tara retreat. Our friends are here. And we thought that it would be a nice idea to, during the course of the 2-week retreat, is for the Abbey monastic community to share a little bit about the 8 dangers, which are particularly listed as things that Green Tar is particularly adept at helping us to subdue, or at least to lessen. And so there are some beautiful, very eloquent verses that were written by the first Dalai Lama that kind of describe these 8 dangers. And they're dangers because they become huge hindrances to our own ability to progress along the path. And they're also these huge, they're afflictive states of mind that really concretize and reify our sense of self. And so Green Tar, because she's the Buddha of enlightening activity that's swift and powerful, is that she's known to be the liberator of these particular kind of afflictions in the mind of sentient beings. So today I get to start off with the lion of pride, and each one of them has like an external metaphor and then an internal affliction. So as we go through the next 2 weeks, you'll hear about them. And Venerable has taught on these a number of times. So they are the lion of pride, the elephant of ignorance, the fire of anger, the snakes of jealousy, the thieves of wrong views, the chains of miserliness, the flood of attachment, and the carnivorous demon of doubt. So today I'm going to start off with the lion of pride, and I'll share a few of the verses and then kind of some of the commentary that Venerable gave, and share some of my own personal experience with this afflictive state of mind, which I never thought I had. So here's the verse. Dwelling in the mountains of wrong views of selfhood, puffed up with holding itself superior, it claws other beings with contempt. The lion of pride, please protect us from this danger. So this is the strutting of the mind that thinks that it has reached a level of attainment, thinks it has reached a level of Dharma realizations with a few intellectual understandings of the Dharma here and there. And it's a very puffed up way of thinking, in that there's a saying that I must have heard when I was a kid, but it was like, a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. And I think it's dangerous because the lion of pride is sneaking around. So if you have just a little bit of understanding of the Dharma intellectually, it's a very dangerous place where you exaggerate exactly what your understanding is, and you puff yourself up and think that you're farther along the path than you are. And what even gets more dangerous is, from that place, then you think that you have an ability to share with others your knowledge, therefore not only being misled by your own ignorance, but also being misleading other people by your lack of understanding. So there are 3 different kinds that where we get into trouble is we get puffed up and proud over those we deem inferior. So this is the condescending kind of pride that looks down on people who haven't gotten to where we are as far as our capacities to understand, at least where we think we are. Jealous of those we consider superior. I mean, I know this mind state, and it is so miserable because we can't stand seeing other people, through a lot of sincere and hard efforts, having deeper understandings of the Dharma, or any worldly knowledge, but I'm going to refer specifically to the Dharma, and it kind of like eats away at us. We just can't even tolerate the fact that they're kinder, that they have a more articulate way maybe to explain their understandings, they're more persevering in their studies. Instead of rejoicing at the fact that they have these good qualities, it just gnaws at us, like it just chews us up inside. And then the one that's that for some of us is even more difficult is the competition, that the kind of pride that competes with those that we perceive to be equal with us. So these are our peers. These are the people that we perceive that kind of have the same level of understanding, the same kind of level of effort. They've maybe been in the Dharma about as long as we have. But if anybody looks like they're slightly getting ahead of you, there's this fierce competition to either challenge them or dismiss them, or to, at some point, even sometimes talk behind their backs and sort of dismiss or denigrate their good qualities. There's a continual wanting to make sure that if you're not equal to them, no way should they ever get ahead of me. And so the line of pride works in these different kinds of ways. And some of us have a pride in particular relationships to people, or even just to the material itself. And for some of us, it's a little bit of pride across the board, whether inferior, superior, or equals. And what happens is that, and then so the second one, okay, so dwelling in the mountains of wrong views of selfhood, that this pride gives us such an exaggerated sense of self because we identify with whatever knowledge we think we have. We puff this sense of I and sense of self up, that we want to either be shown as being scholarly or be shown as having some sort of realizations, and it really reifies that sense of self in a very, very, well, we're not like that at all, so it just enhances this inherently existent sense of self. Puffed up with the holdings of itself as superior, okay, that's one of the different versions of pride. It claws other beings with contempt. I sometimes have a sense that this happens when we just can't bear the good qualities and the scholarship of others. And this is where we start either speaking unkindly about them behind their backs, or somehow trying to denigrate or sabotage. I mean, there's really kind of this wish to harm, to put them in their place in some sort of way. And what happens here is that Venerable actually says here that this pride begets a contempt that is like a lion's claw with which we injure other living beings. So we can either do it with our speech, do it with our bodies, do it with our minds, really harm others in different ways. And what this does is that because of the actions precipitated by this pride, we're creating the causes and conditions to have a lower rebirth for sure. It also helps us to prevent us from recognizing what our situation in samsara is. This is a horrible predicament, this continual cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. But when we're too full of ourselves on where we think we are on the path, we sort of lose track of the horror of cyclic existence itself, and we think that we're doing pretty well and that it's pretty good around here and things are fine. So pride really blinds us to the disadvantages of being in cyclic existence altogether. And so we fail to practice, we kind of cruise along, we don't continue to transform our minds and try to get really clear about the determination to be free so that we can really liberate ourselves. So what are the antidotes? Because as Venerable Tarpa said, I think you talked about it this morning in the Lamrim, it can be very gross kind of pride. It can be also very, very subtle. So it's sometimes very hard to identify because it can be mixed up, as she said this morning, with self-confidence. When we really have some deep understandings, how we integrate them into our practice is one thing. But pride takes whatever little understandings and goes totally external with them, totally attachment to reputation, totally attachment to grasping at inherent existence. It doesn't use it as a form of fuel to propel us along the path in a really sincere and humble and real way. Okay, antidotes. Well, first of all, Venerable says, okay, if you've got a lot of pride, go looking for something that you don't have any clue about. Anything in the Dharma. And she uses the example of the 12 sources and the 18 elements. I have absolutely no idea what that is. Or to think about, looking at Jeffrey Hopkins' book on meditation on emptiness, if you think you're getting a little bit far along the path, just take that book and read it for a while. It'll bring you kind of back to your senses because it's a profound book, but it takes a real, sincere, sharp mind to be able to comprehend it. So you take points that are difficult to understand and you say, okay, I don't get any of this. And so where does my pride belong if I have no understanding of all these vast topics of the Buddhist teachings? The The next one, which I have found very, very helpful, is that reflecting that everything that we know, every talent we have, every skill that we have ever acquired is due to the kindness of others. The fact that we even have the capacity to learn the Dharma and that we have access to it is due to the incredible kindness of others. And it's something that we can never take for granted. And so by seeing that all the wisdom that we have is due because somebody took the time, a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, and compassion for us, that we have this kind of understanding. And then the last one, she says, is bowing to the three jewels is also helpful to counteract arrogance or pride. In fact, we are encouraged to do prostrations where you put your full body on the floor with your head and your nose down on the carpet in honor of the profundity of the three jewels and the fact that it just kind of once again puts us in this very humble, receptive, softened kind of state of mind rather than pride. Pride has kind of a hard surface to it that cannot be receptive to taking in the Dharma. So to be able to do prostrations, it really helps. First of all, if we do it with a very sincere mind, it actually clears away the obstacles. Pride, confusion, aversion, resistance, laziness, doubt. So by doing the prostrations, not only are we trying to help to alleviate and use an antidote for pride, but it also, in the meantime, is helping to clear away many more of the other afflictions besides just pride. So, and then finally, Venerable says, because we're saying, please protect us from this danger, Tara. Help us to see clearly that we need to abandon this kind of pride. Is that she said that letting go of pride is a relief. Tremendous energy is required to try to convince ourselves and others that we are better than we are. When we free up and direct that energy into taming our minds, our good qualities multiply very quickly. In addition, our hearts become lighter, we're able to laugh at our foibles, and we are no longer fearful of others finding us out. So we want to ask Tara to help us to be inspired to cultivate the seeds of wisdom and compassion in our mind, and to really use all this energy to sort of prop up this in view of an inherently existent self, to really cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness instead. And so may the lion of pride go hunting someplace else.